Often when I work with clients, one of the big things that we're working on together, especially in the initial stages, is restoring trust. So we often lose trust in ourselves, in others, in our future, and that can happen from a very emotional or traumatic event that just really leaves you feeling disconnected and fearful and anxious. And as a result, it's just a natural human inclination to protect ourselves and build these walls and barriers to keep us safe from that situation where we lost that trust or experienced that pain. So as a result of this, your mind creates this script that says, that was painful, right? Like, let's not do that again. And that script is often reapplied in so many areas of our life that are even vaguely familiar to that initial experience. And so it's not a foolproof script or plan. And this is, again, just our brain's normal way of creating and categorizing the world, but it's often not entirely accurate. And so running this script creates that disconnection in multiple areas of your life. Neuroscientist and author Lisa Feldman Barrett has a great way of explaining this. So even though a lot of us would like to believe that our brain is very reactive and responsive, the reality of things is our brain is designed to predict. And I want to read a quote from her that I got from a recent podcast that I listened to. And she says, "People tend to feel like we're reacting to what's actually happening in the world. But what's really happening is your brain is drawing on your deep backlog of experience and memory, constructing what it believes to be your reality, cross-referencing it with incoming sense data from your heart, lungs, metabolism, immune system, as well as the surrounding world, and adjusting as needed." In other words, you're almost always acting on predictions that your brain is making about what's going to happen next, not reacting to experience as it unfolds. And so what she's essentially saying here is your brain is a prediction machine. Your brain is constantly taking in outside sensory input and even internal sensory input to create these scripts or these models of the world and predict how you should react in that current situation or an upcoming situation. And this works really well for us, right? This is a very primal mechanism. It was designed for a reason. And let's say, for example, you go to a restaurant and you understand how that plot's going to unfold, right? You're going to look at the menu and then order and then eat your food and pay the bill and leave, right? And so we understand, okay, that is a script that I know and am familiar with, and that works in that setting. But if you have a script for not being able to trust, like the world is a dangerous place, or that I just can't trust others to show up for me in the way that I would like, or that you just are not trusting in yourself and your own capabilities, then that script is not going to support you. That's going to limit you from having these thriving relationships and building this beautiful business and pursuing your higher calling. So today I want to support you with my 3 ways to restore your trust and rewrite those scripts. And number 1 that I want to start off with is creating some certainty. So while you step into this new territory of building this business or that relationship or pursuing your higher calling, your brain and body's natural inclination is to go back to familiarity and certainty, right? We just talked about that. Your brain is a prediction model. So it knows those patterns and those programs. So it's going to return to that versus step into this new territory. And this is just a way of preserving energy, honestly, and keeping us safe. But what we want to do to be able to kind of override this or allow you to step into that new territory is build some sort of structures and routines and create that foundation for yourself so you have that stability to allow that uncertainty to come in and kind of that chaos and maybe a bit of instability because you have this home to return to. And so I always start with building these structures and routines. I like to call them rituals. I have a whole other video on this. But these routines and rituals that you can return to and support yourself with while you do this work of taking these baby steps and trying on these new kind of perspectives of the world and these new paradigms and restore your trust. My second tip for building trust is to make plans in the future. So what often happens when we lose trust is we create this script that it didn't work for me before, so why would it work for me now? And I think one way that I can kind of apply this to my own life and tell a bit of a personal story is, I talked about this before, I was chronically unwell in, mental, physical, emotional health, even spiritual health, if you want to go to that level, for many years. And as a result, I created this distrust in my future and the way that my life would progress, and this script that I would die young. And it sounds a little dramatic, but that is honestly what I believed. And because I had this script, I started behaving that way. I started to spend everything that I earned. Just immediately, once it comes in, it goes out. I never opened a 401k or invested in any sort of, kind of financial future. I stopped wearing sunscreen. Because, why would you wear sunscreen if you're not trying to take care of your skin for the future or avoid, skin cancer or anything like that? And I just started moving that way. And for me, that script obviously really limited me because I wouldn't plan more than a few months out in advance. I wouldn't even book a trip or anything if it was like 6 months away, because I was like, well, who knows how I feel and if I'm going to be to that place in my life or be able to execute on that trip. And so again, it just kind of comes back to taking these small little steps to prove to yourself that you can invest in that future and you can move that direction. Because when you're living the way that I was living, you're sending a very strong signal to the universe, to the world, to a higher source, God, whatever it is, just to bring a little bit of kind of spirituality into things. You're sending a signal that you don't trust there's a future for you, or that good things can happen to you. And so that is going to be mirrored back to you because now you're looking for that evidence. And in neuroscience, they call this your confirmation bias. So I have kind of set that I'm seeking this and it's going to reflect back to me. And so what I would encourage you to do, and I can apply it through this filter of my own life, is take maybe $5 a week and put it in savings, right? So that sends this little signal that there's a future and you're investing in that. Or book a trip that's more than 6 months out because you know that 6 months is going to pass and you're going to get there and you're going to be healthy and well and able to go on this trip. Or make plans to go back to school or start a business in a year. Maybe you have some other things that you want to do. And then at the beginning of the new year, you're going to start that new business. So those kind of gestures, even small at first, are going to send the signal to yourself and to the world at large, and again to the universe and even that higher source, that you are moving that direction, and then you could allow that to be mirrored back to you instead. So you've kind of set to prove that you do trust in the world, and that's what's going to be reflected back to you. Okay, so my last tip is nurture the belief that you're worthy. So mistrust in yourself and in your future often comes with a hefty bag of internal scripts like I am unworthy, I'm broken, I'm unlovable, or bad things happen to me. And I hate to break it to you, but it's all complete bullshit, right? But it feels very real to you. That feels so real because you've found that evidence in your past or in your current reality to support and uphold that belief. And so in order to change that limiting belief, and I actually just did a video on this, I have a whole segment on this, but to give a kind of a tip and maybe a faster route or another way to do it is to take the perspective of an outsider. So you've been seeing this way through your lens and your perspective of the world. So try taking the perspective of somebody that does trust in the world or does have what you want. And what would they say? So maybe you would say, what does somebody believe that knows they deserve everything in the world? What would they do? Or somebody that believes good things happen to them. And then once you align yourself with that version and start showing up that way, that creates that identity shift. And I talked about that in the previous video as well. That is the highest, most powerful level of belief change and behavioral transformation, because it cascades all the way down to that behavior. And once you've made that identity shift, then your reality shifts. In conclusion, learning to trust yourself is one of the most powerful shifts you can make for your business, for your relationships, and for pursuing your higher calling. So there's a quote that I really love from Yoko Ono, and she was in an interview and they asked her, what is your religion, or how do you identify with your spirituality? And her answer was simply, my religion is to trust myself. And so trust yourself, because trusting yourself is trusting life. It's one and the same. And trusting life allows you to open to new possibilities and new paradigms and new people and places and ideas. And opening to that and trusting that that will lead you towards your highest self and the best version of yourself will create the life that you've imagined.